So, imagine you are swinging a heavy axe into a log.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right, and you expect that really satisfying echoing crack, but instead the axe literally just bounces off.
Well, wow.
Yeah, so you swing again, putting your entire back into it, and absolutely nothing happens.
That sounds incredibly frustrating.
It really is. You finally have to pry the wood open with, well, a hammer and a second axe, only to find that inside the wood isn't straight at all.
Wait, what does it look like?
It's just this spiraled, tangled knot. And today we are looking at how that single frustrating piece of firewood holds the exact secret to understanding the most difficult, stubborn people in your life.
We are diving into a really unique perspective today. It comes from a philosophical essay.
Right, the one by Swiffing.
Yes, exactly. It's titled The Revelation About Life from Chopping Wood, and it was written on September 3, 2024.
It's such a fascinating read.
It really is.
Yeah.
Weffing basically takes the literal dirt, sweat, and mechanics of splitting firewood and, uses it to construct this remarkably profound framework.
A framework for understanding human trauma, right? And resilience and compassion.
Yeah, exactly. It's all connected.
The mission of this deep dive is to explore how a mundane, deeply physical task can actually unlock the secrets of why we are the way we are. And maybe more urgently for anyone listening, why people around us can sometimes feel so, entirely impossible to deal with.
Oh, we all know people like that.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the physical reality that actually sparked Sofing's realization. We really need to look at the mechanics of the wood pile.
Well, when you look at the kinetic energy of chopping wood, you are essentially watching a test of internal structures.
Right.
Zweig observed this stark contrast between two very different types of logs.
Yeah.
So the first type is what we generally think of when we picture, chopping firewood.
The easy ones.
Exactly. You take one strong, well-aimed strike with the axe, and the log just yields. It splits perfectly in half.
And the two pieces just fall away.
Right. And the internal surfaces that are revealed are entirely flat and even.
It's like the kind of thing you see in those satisfying internet videos.
Oh, totally. The energy from the axe blade travels straight down the fault line of the grain, unimpeded.
But then Schuffing encounters what he calls special logs.
Yes. And these are very specific in their dimensions, which I found interesting.
Yeah, they are about 60 centimeters long and roughly 20 to 30 centimeters in diameter.
So visually, they aren't even massive.
Not at all. They look like totally normal firewood. But physically, they operate under a completely different set of rules.
Right, because no matter how much force you apply to these special logs or, how precise your strike is, they just refuse to yield.
One hit does nothing.
Exactly. Multiple attempts do absolutely nothing. The wood absorbs the impact, but just remains entirely unbroken.
So what did he have to do?
Well, to finally break these special logs, Shifeng had to basically abandon the normal chopping method altogether.
I would have just given up.
Most people would.
Yeah.
It devolved into this grueling, incredibly frustrating multi-step process.
Right. He describes having to wedge an axe into whatever tiny microscopic initial crack he could make, and then physically take a hammer to the back of the axe head, pounding it deeper into the wood.
Which is so much extra effort.
That alone sounds exhausting. But as that crack finally widened slightly, he had to take a second axe.
The second one.
Yeah, insert it into the new opening alongside the first and literally continue hammering. The essay notes that this process took dozens of attempts.
Dozens.
Just to force this one single log to finally split open.
That is wild. But, the most revealing part of this whole ordeal is what he actually found inside.
All right, the reveal.
Yeah, when that log finally gave way, it did look anything like the first log.
No flat surfaces.
Exactly. Instead of those flat, even surfaces, these stubborn logs revealed completely twisted spiral surfaces inside.
The grain of the wood wasn't running straight up and down at all.
No, it was spiraling around itself, creating this, dense, interlocking internal armor.
It's kind of like the difference between ripping a sheet of paper perfectly down a folded crease, right?
Yeah.
Versus trying to tear a densely knotted ball of yarn in half.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
With the paper, the energy has a clear, straight path to follow. But with the yarn, there is no straight line. The fibers are, woven back on themselves.
Resisting you at every single angle.
Exactly. The kinetic energy of the axe has literally nowhere to go, so it just scatters and gets deflected by those spirals.
What's fascinating here is the natural history written into that spiral.
What do you mean?
Well, when you look at that tangled wood grain, You're literally looking at a map of a tree's survival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that tree didn't start out twisted. It was forced to grow that way. Shuofeng points directly to the environment.
Right. He speculates that these special logs experienced intense twisting pressure during their growth phase.
Exactly. Think about it. A sapling is out there facing a harsh environment,
Maybe it's a constant prevailing wind coming from just one direction.
or shifting soil on a steep incline.
Or even like another larger tree physically pressing against it as it tries to reach the sunlight.
Right, so the tree faces this biological ultimatum. It can try to grow straight and snap under the relentless pressure.
Or it can adapt.
Exactly. To survive and continue growing upward, it literally has to grow in a spiral manner,
And over years and decades, the grain of the entire tree just becomes twisted.
which completely alters the utility of the wood.
For sure. Shufeng highlights that straight grain trees, the ones that grew up in stable environments without prolonged suffering or pressure.
They are ideal for human use,
Right. They are predictable, their internal structure is uniform.
making them excellent for building furniture, constructing houses, and, well, easily processing into firewood.
They are highly cooperative materials. But the twisted trees, the ones that endured constant hardship, they are totally unsuitable for normal construction.
You definitely cannot build a reliable weight-bearing dining room table out of spiraled wood.
No, the boards would completely warp. They are incredibly difficult to process.
But the trade-off is their unbelievable resilience.
That's the crazy part. The very adaptation that kept the tree alive in a hostile environment is exactly what makes it so impossibly difficult to break down later with an axe.
The twist is literally a permanent record of the tree's suffering.
Man, that is deep.
And that historical record of suffering is exactly where Swiffen pivots from botany to human psychology.
This is where it hits close to home.
Yeah, he proposes that just as trees have a straight or twisted nature dictated by their environment, human beings develop a grain shaped by theirs.
So we are moving from the forest ecosystem straight into the family living room.
Starting with what he defines as the straight-grained person.
Okay, so according to the framework, this person was raised in a harmonious environment.
Right. Their parents rarely argued.
There were no underlying threats, no emotional or physical violence in the home.
And moving into school, they received more praise than criticism. Their environment supported them.
And then as they entered adulthood, their work life was generally smooth sailing.
They didn't face major traumas or intense prolonged systemic pressure.
The result of that calm environment, much like the tree in the sheltered valley, is a person whose nature remains pure, simple, and gentle.
Because they've never needed to build massive internal defenses, they're generally very easy to get along with.
Right. Schiffing uses a really interesting word here, actually. He says they easily become useful.
Useful. Wow.
Yeah, they fit smoothly into the structures of society, just as a straight board fits smoothly into the floor of a house.
They don't resist the structures around them.
But then we look at the exact opposite, right? The twisted-grained person.
Yes. This is an individual whose entire growth environment was defined by pressure and instability.
Zhifeng describes them as growing up in a disharmonious family, like maybe their parents were constantly belittling each other.
Or the home was just filled with unpredictable conflict.
And that pressure doesn't stop at home. They face frequent criticism and active suppression at school, and eventually in the workplace, too.
Their formative environment was basically a constant prevailing wind of negativity.
Just like that sapling on the windy ridge.
Exactly. To survive that constant emotional and psychological pressure, they couldn't grow straight.
If they had remained entirely open and vulnerable, they would have snapped.
So their psychological nature became twisted. They built thick, spiraling internal defenses just to get through the day.
You know, here's where it gets really interesting. I want to push back on this terminology for a second.
Oh, go for it.
We're using the word twisted, which, in everyday conversation usually carries a strictly negative connotation.
Right. It implies someone is damaged or broken.
Or inherently flawed. It sounds like being straight-grained is the ultimate ideal.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go back to the firewood, they are the ones that absolutely cannot be broken by the axe.
That's true.
Doesn't that make them uniquely superior to the straight-grained people in certain situations? Like, the straight-grained person might be a great team player, but they haven't been stress-tested by disaster?
That is the exact nuance Shuofeng is bringing to light.
Really?
Yes, he explicitly states that the twisted-grained person develops immense, almost unfathomable resilience.
Because they had to.
Right. External forces find it incredibly hard to break them. They have already survived conditions that might have completely shattered a straight-grained person.
Wow.
They know how to weather a storm because they were built by one. However, that unbreakable nature comes with a severe, everyday social cost.
Oh, I bet. They are incredibly hard to process.
Because their defenses are so robust, and because they have spent a lifetime braced for impact, they find it immensely difficult to accept advice or persuasion from others.
Well, yeah, in their formative years, feedback wasn't helpful. It was a threat.
Exactly. So they become rigid.
They are the person in a meeting who refuses to yield on a minor point.
Or the family member who will simply not hear another perspective, no matter how logically it is presented.
When you look at your own life, this completely changes how you view the people who drive you crazy.
Oh, entirely. We all interact with someone who feels like a twisted log.
Definitely. They are strong-natured, deeply entrenched, and frankly, completely impossible to persuade.
Which begs the question.
Yeah, how does Rifeng suggest we actually deal with them now that we understand the origin of their grain?
He issues a very clear, challenging directive.
Okay, what is it?
When we encounter these highly resilient, stubborn individuals, our first response must not be frustration.
That's easier said than done.
I know, right? But he says it must be sympathy, understanding, and forgiveness.
We have to recognize the unseen suffering that caused them to twist in the first place,
Yes.
which is incredibly difficult in the heat of the moment. I mean, when a coworker is being impossibly stubborn about a project,
Or a relative is refusing to compromise at a family dinner.
your instinct is to grab the hammer and start pounding on the back of the axe.
Exactly. You want to force them to see reason.
You want to present more data, argue louder, and make them yield.
But Zufeng warns against exactly that instinct. He establishes a crucial rule of engagement.
Do tell.
Do not argue with them.
At all.
At all. Their nature is already formed. The spiral is set deep in the wood.
So arguing with a twisted-grained person is basically the equivalent of swinging a single axe at that special log.
Yes, the energy is just going to bounce off,
Yeah.
and you risk getting hit by the recoil.
He points out that engaging in these disputes is not just fundamentally ineffective, it actively strains the relationship.
It ends up being detrimental to both parties.
You are just dulling your own blade, exhausting your own energy, and reinforcing their belief that the world is a hostile place they need to defend against.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it offers a profound reframing of our everyday conflicts.
How so?
Well, think about how often we personalize someone else's stubbornness. We sit there thinking, they're just being difficult to annoy me. They're trying to ruin this meeting.
Right. We make it about us.
But this framework asks us to visualize those unseen environmental pressures from decades ago.
That refusal to bend isn't about you, or the project, or the dinner plans.
Exactly. It is the survival mechanism they built to withstand the disharmony of their childhood. They're simply acting out the shape of their survival.
So what does this all mean? If we shouldn't argue with them, and if they are, by definition, difficult to fit into normal societal structures, what is their place?
That's a great question.
If society is largely built by and for straight-grained people, the ones who can smoothly navigate the corporate ladder or suburban family life, what is the actual value of the abnormal?
This is where the essay expands from a practical psychological observation into a much larger, almost ecological philosophy.
Illogical. Okay, I'm listening.
Su Feng argues that specially natured things are, in fact, special materials.
Special materials.
And special materials are desperately needed in unique situations.
Ah, I see. Just because you can't use twisted wood to build a standard everyday dining room table doesn't mean the wood is worthless.
Not at all.
You might need it for, like, a tool handle that has to absorb massive amounts of shock without snapping.
He writes that these special materials have their distinctive value and purpose.
And similarly, special twisted people have their unique value and use in the human ecosystem.
The essay concludes with this incredibly unifying thought.
What's that?
Whether normal or abnormal, whether straight-grained or twisted, all are creations of nature. They're all considered treasures in what he refers to as the greatest creator's embrace.
Wow. It completely dismantles the idea of viewing society as a simple binary of good materials and bad materials.
It isn't about an ideal state versus a flawed state.
It's about a complex ecosystem.
Yeah.
An ecosystem requires all types of grain to function.
You absolutely need the straight-grained folks to keep things running smoothly.
Right, to build the foundational structures of society, to foster harmony and connection.
But you also desperately need the twisted-grained people.
You need the people who have an innate capacity to withstand immense pressure.
Exactly. When the entire structure is threatened, the straight-grained wood might snap, but the twisted wood will hold the line.
We started this deep dive looking at the sweat, the hammering, and the sheer physical frustration of trying to split a stubborn 60-centimeter log.
And we've ended up uncovering the deep empathy required to understand a stubborn human heart.
This philosophy reminds us that our shakes, our temperaments, our openness, our rigidities, they are all formed by our struggles.
The smooth, easygoing nature reflects the sun it basked in.
And the knotted, stubborn nature reflects the relentless storms it survived.
Recognizing that fact has the power to diffuse so much of the anger we carry into our daily interaction.
It really does. It replaces our quick judgments with a very grounded, practical kind of grace.
We stopped trying to chop wood that wasn't meant to be split.
I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. Think about the most unyielding, frustrating, twisted-grained person in your life right now.
You probably had their face in your mind the moment we started talking about this.
Yeah, probably. If their intense stubbornness is actually just a permanent physical record of their survival, what kind of future crisis, what kind of completely unforeseen, devastating challenge might suddenly require exactly their type of unbreakable strength?
A strength that all the easygoing, straight-grained people around them simply do not possess.
This raises an important question for all of us. When the pressure is truly on and the environment becomes hostile, who do you actually want standing next to you?
The wood that splits easily, or the wood that refuses to break?
Keep looking closely at the mundane things and keep exploring the grain of the world around you. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.